Shadows of success. The words sliced through the rooftop air before I even saw who said them. She's tougher, more driven. She's the one you need. At first, I thought I'd imagined it just another cutting whisper carried by the wind between champagne laughter and the clink of crystal. But then I heard my mother's voice, sharp and unmistakable. Victoria Carter never whispered. I froze behind a potted palm, my glass trembling so hard the bubbles fractured like my composure. The rooftop lights of downtown LA glowed around me, gold merciless and far too bright for the humiliation that was about to unfold. She's a dreamer, Ethan, my mother continued. Talented, yes, but she lives in ideas, not action. You, my dear, need someone who moves at your pace, someone like Chloe. Chloe, my sister. The word hit like a slap I couldn't block. I leaned forward just enough to see them. Ethan Brooks, my boyfriend of 4 years, stood beside my mother near the bar, adjusting his tie like he was bracing for impact. My mother's hand rested lightly on his arm, the kind of practiced intimacy she used when she wanted to make people feel indebted to her. Chloe's already VP at her firm, she said, her tone dripping with admiration. She understands ambition. She could build something with you. And he didn't stop her. He didn't say, I'm with Emily. He just stood there, jaw tight, staring at the skyline like the answer was written somewhere between the skyscrapers. The music swelled behind me, a remix of something forgettable, and I slipped away before the tears had the chance to make me visible. My heels clicked across the marble like gunshots. I should have confronted them, should have thrown my drink and watched it stain my mother's designer gown. Instead, I smiled through the rest of the night, the perfect daughter, the supportive girlfriend. That was my first mistake. I replayed that moment for weeks, every syllable echoing in my skull. She's tougher. She's the one you need. It was more than betrayal, it was confirmation. My mother had always seen me as the delicate one, the sentimental artist with potential, while Chloe was the weapon she'd sharpened for the world. Ethan's distance grew in increments. First, he stopped holding my hand at family dinners. Then came the excuses, work deadlines, investor calls, late nights at the office. The word busy became his shield. He started mentioning Chloe more often. Your sister ran that campaign that went viral. Chloe said I should try CrossFit. Chloe thinks I could handle a director role soon. Every mention of her name was a splinter under my skin. The night I found her text thread on his phone, my heart didn't even race, it slowed. A string of messages, dinner tomorrow, same place as last time. Can't wait. When I confronted him, Ethan didn't flinch. She's your sister Em, he said, feigning indignation. You're reading into nothing. But his eyes gave him away, flickering sideways, searching for an exit. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, realizing I'd built my world around someone who could lie without blinking. Family gatherings became performance art. Chloe and Ethan sat too close. My mother watched them like a proud matchmaker. I learned to smile without meaning it. My best friend Mia saw through me. He's different, she warned after another canceled date. You're letting him walk over you. I'm just tired, I lied. We're both stressed. But the cracks widened. The final one came on a sticky Sunday afternoon at a family barbecue. I'd brought my sketchbook, a collection of designs I'd been working on for months, and set it beside me while I grabbed a drink. When I returned, it was soaked in red wine. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Chloe gasped, holding the empty glass, her face painted in mock horror. Total accident. I stared at the ruined pages, my work bleeding into abstraction, and something inside me snapped. Ethan chuckled from across the table, shaking his head. Babe, it's just paper. Just paper. The next time I looked at him, I didn't see my boyfriend. I saw my mother's words made flesh, a man who wanted someone sharper, colder, more useful. 4 months later, I decided to fight for what we had, or at least confirm it was gone. I bought tickets to the Venice Beach Indie Film Festival, something we'd dreamed of attending when we were broke college kids sharing ramen and ambition. I drove to his apartment unannounced, the tickets tucked in my pocket like a peace offering. The door was ajar. I remember thinking maybe he's cooking. The smell that hit me wasn't food. Chloe's scarf silk lavender draped over the couch. Ethan's shirt on the floor. Laughter low and breathless coming from the bedroom. When I pushed the door open, the world slowed. Sheets, tangled bodies froze, and for a brief, absurd moment, I thought it was a nightmare. Emily. Ethan scrambled, yanking the blanket to his chest. Chloe didn't bother covering up. She smirked, flipping her hair like this was some kind of power play. "Guess the secret's out," she said. How long my voice was steady, detached the way it gets when pain goes nuclear. Ethan's throat bobbed. 3 months. "But it started after Mom told you to," I finished. He looked away. That was answer enough. I dropped the tickets on the floor, paper shrapnel. "Congratulations," I said. "You found your tougher woman." Then I left. No screaming, no scene, just silence, the kind that kills louder than words. I confronted my mother that night. She didn't even pretend to be surprised. "Oh, Emily, don't be dramatic," she said. Sipping her Cabernet like this was brunch gossip. "Chloe and Ethan are better suited. You'll thank me one day." "You ruined my relationship," I said. "I saved you from mediocrity," she replied coolly. "You're too fragile for that world." Her words burned hotter than betrayal. Fragile, dreamer, useless. Something inside me crystallized. "You're wrong," I whispered. "You've never known me at all." That was the night I decided to disappear and return sharper than she could imagine. Leaving Los Angeles felt like cutting off a limb that had already gone gangrenous. The city had always been my mirror, dazzling, fickle, and full of people pretending to be whole. But that morning, as I loaded my life into the back of a beat-up Toyota Corolla, the skyline looked almost merciful. Mia stood by the curb, her hair tied up in a messy bun, still in pajamas. She'd been my anchor through the implosion, listening to late-night breakdowns, rescuing me from myself. "You sure about this?" she asked. "You could crash at my place until you figure things out." I closed the trunk, wiping sweat and tears with the same motion. "If I stay, I'll keep orbiting them, my mom, Chloe, Ethan. I can't heal in their shadow." "You're not running away." "No," I said. "I'm rebuilding." She smiled, that quiet, proud smile people give when they know you're about to do something irreversible. "Then go burn down the old version of yourself." That line stuck with me all the way up the coast. The road to Seattle was long and soaked in gray, like the sky itself was exhausted. I drove through the night with a playlist full of old songs I used to share with Ethan, skipping each one halfway through. Every lyric felt like a splinter of what I'd lost, but also what I could become without him. When I crossed into Washington, the rain met me like an initiation. I checked into a budget motel near Pike Place Market, where the neon sign outside my window flickered between vacancy and AC. It felt symbolic, half empty, half ready. I gave myself one night to break down. I ordered cheap Thai takeout, drank a bottle of gas station wine, and cried until my body felt hollow enough to start over. The next morning, I woke up raw but steady. My plan was simple: find work, find purpose, find myself again. Seattle wasn't kind at first. The city was full of people chasing the same dreams, designers, coders, entrepreneurs, each convinced they were one pitch deck away from greatness. I spent weeks sending out my portfolio, taking freelance gigs that paid in exposure and lukewarm gratitude. Every rejection email chipped away at me, but not like my mother's words had. Those had been personal. These were professional. And oddly, that felt survivable. 3 weeks and my bank balance dropped below $500. I was eating instant noodles, again sleeping in a studio apartment that smelled perpetually of damp carpet. Desperation became my fuel. That's when I saw the listing: Nexus Tech, executive assistant to CEO, must thrive in chaos. I almost didn't apply. My degree in design felt irrelevant. But something about the phrase "thrive in chaos" called to me, because that was all I'd been doing. The office was in a renovated warehouse near South Lake Union, full of glass walls and beanbag chairs. The kind of place that smelled like ambition and burnt espresso. Emily Carter, a receptionist, asked, leading me into a glass conference room. Inside sat a man in his 30s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. Lucas Hayes. He didn't shake hands. He just gestured to the chair. "You're not what I expected." I blinked. "Is that a compliment?" "Depends. Most people who apply here are MBA robots. You're an artist." "I can be both," I said before I could stop myself. He smiled slightly, as if testing me. "Your resume says you studied design at UCLA. So why are you applying to be someone's assistant?" "Because I'm good at holding things together even when they're falling apart." He leaned back, assessing. "That's not on your resume. It's a transferable skill." He laughed, a quick, unguarded sound. "You're bold. I like that." And just like that, I had a job. Working for Lucas was chaos incarnate. He was brilliant, impatient, and allergic to sleep. His mind ran 5 startups ahead of reality, and my job was to keep up. I learned everything from scheduling investor calls at 2 a.m. to debugging prototypes when the engineers panicked. He started calling me Carter, always with that half smirk that meant he was impressed but didn't want to admit it. Carter, pitch deck in 15. If the slides don't make them drool, you're fired. Carter, remind me to eat something that's not caffeine. I found myself caring not just about the job, but about him. Lucas wasn't like Ethan. He didn't need validation. He demanded results. And somehow that made me want to prove myself more. One evening, I stayed late reformatting a presentation. Lucas walked in, tie loose sleeves rolled up. "You still here? Couldn't sleep," I said. "Might as well fix your charts before they embarrass you." He laughed. "You know you could have just said you like saving my ass." I prefer to call it quality control. He leaned over my shoulder close enough that I caught the faint scent of cedar and espresso. "You've got good instincts," he said quietly. "You ever think about running your own thing?" once I admitted. But I burned out before I ever started. Then maybe it's time to start again. Something in his tone, calm, sure, unflinching, lodged itself in me. For the first time since leaving LA, I felt seen not as someone broken, but as someone capable. A few weeks later, he showed me a document titled Greenwave Solutions, a startup focused on renewable tech clean energy apps that would track individual carbon footprints and reward sustainable habits. It was the kind of idea that could change everything if done right. "I'm launching this in 6 months," he said. "I want you in." I blinked. "Doing what, scheduling meetings?" he grinned. As my creative director, I laughed, actually laughed. "Lucas, I'm an assistant. You need a designer with experience. I need someone who can think, who can see. You have both. That's rarer than you think." It felt reckless, but maybe reckless was what I needed. I'm in. Greenwave started in a converted loft with exposed brick flickering lights and dreams bigger than the rent. Lucas handled investors. I handled everything else: branding, design, marketing, even interior layout. We lived on caffeine and adrenaline. When investors visited, I presented our vision like I'd been born for it. "This isn't about saving the planet," I'd say. "It's about proving sustainability can be beautiful, profitable, and inevitable." And people believed me. Somewhere between late nights and early mornings, Lucas and I stopped pretending it was just business. He'd hand me coffee with a grin that lasted too long. I'd linger at his desk after hours under the excuse of revisions. It wasn't dramatic, just slow, magnetic inevitability. The first time he kissed me was under the Fremont Bridge after a 12-hour workday. Rain dripped from the steel beams above the city lights, reflecting off the water like 1,000 tiny promises. "This could ruin everything," I whispered. "Or make it stronger," he said, his breath warm against my skin. He was right. We built Greenwave side by side, fueled by caffeine and shared obsession. We fought, we created, we laughed until sunrise. And 1 year later, we married in a small ceremony overlooking the Puget Sound. No guests, no press, just vows whispered between 2 people who'd rebuilt each other. When we walked out of the courthouse, I felt a strange calm. For the first time in years, my life wasn't defined by betrayal. It was built on something I'd chosen. But success has a way of echoing. And echoes always reach the people you thought you'd left behind. It started with a headline: Apex Innovations eyes Greenwave acquisition. Lucas's company had caught the attention of a corporate giant. They wanted to integrate our platform into their global network. It was the opportunity of a lifetime and the beginning of my reckoning. The deal came with an invitation, a gala, at Seattle's Museum of Pop Culture, a celebration of sustainability, innovation, and the future of tech. I was reviewing the guest list when I saw the names that stopped my breath. Ethan Brooks, Apex Compliance Officer; Chloe Brooks, Marketing Consultant; Victoria Carter, RSVP confirmed. For a long moment, the room tilted. The past I'd buried was walking back into my world, dressed in formal wear and irony. Lucas looked over my shoulder. "You know them, my mother," I said. "My sister, my ex." He frowned. "You don't have to see them." "Oh, I do," I whispered. "Because this time I won't be the one breaking." He hesitated. "You're not doing this for revenge, are you?" I smiled, a calm, practiced smile. Of course not. But deep down, I already knew this was the moment I'd been rebuilding for. The night of the Apex Gala began like every other victory should, with calm confidence and the quiet hum of inevitability. But beneath my navy silk gown and the diamond pin Lucas had given me that morning, I could feel the old pulse of rage I'd buried under success. Seattle shimmered outside the hotel window, the Space Needle slicing through the fog like a promise. I studied my reflection in the glass. 4 years ago, I'd been a trembling girl behind a potted palm listening to my mother dismantle me one sentence at a time. Tonight, I was the woman hosting the deal she'd kill to attend. Lucas appeared behind me, adjusting his cufflinks. Ready as I'll ever be. He smiled, but there was a flicker of worry in his eyes. If you see them, keep your cool. You don't need to prove anything. I kissed him lightly. That's the thing, Lucas. I already did. The Museum of Pop Culture glowed with green light and minimalist grandeur, a monument to progress wrapped in recycled glass and irony. Guests flowed through the atrium in couture and confidence. Screens displayed our partnership logo, Apex Times Greenwave, powering a cleaner tomorrow. My heels clicked against polished floors as cameras flashed. Reporters wanted statements, influencers wanted selfies, investors wanted reassurance. I gave them all the same poised smile. Inside, my heartbeat drummed to an older rhythm. Then I saw them. Victoria Carter, Chloe Brooks, and Ethan standing exactly as I remembered, self-important posture masking insecurity. For a moment, the room shrank to a whisper. Chloe's dress was gold, showy and desperate. Victoria's pearls gleamed like ammunition. Ethan's smile faltered when his eyes met mine. Mrs. Hayes Victoria greeted the title, tasting foreign in her mouth. What a surprise! I returned her smile. Surprise, I sent the invitation myself. Her composure wavered. Well, it's wonderful to see you thriving. I always knew you had potential. No, you didn't, I said, softly leaning closer. But thank you for coming to witness it anyway. Lucas took the stage for the opening remarks. His voice filled the hall, steady, magnetic, proud. I stood beside him, my hand resting lightly on his arm, and scanned the crowd. Chloe watched me with that familiar, competitive glint. Ethan looked like a man drowning in nostalgia he didn't want. My mother. She looked confused, as though the story she'd written about me no longer fit. When Lucas toasted our partnership, applause echoed. Flashbulbs burst. I felt the moment crystallize. This was the mirror image of the night. Everything had fallen apart. Same champagne, same polished crowd, different woman. After the speeches, conversation splintered into clusters. I excused myself from a group of investors and found Chloe by the bar. Well, she said, swirling her drink, look who made it to the big leagues. I tilted my head. Didn't think I could, she smirked. Honestly, no. You were always the sensitive one. I guess marrying rich fixes that. I laughed, genuine sharp. That's cute, coming from someone who built her career on flirting her way through clients. Her smile faltered. You're still jealous, aren't you? Of you, I leaned in. Chloe, I built a company. You built excuses. Her jaw tightened. Ethan and I are happy. Then why are you still talking about me? For a second silence. Then she turned away, glass trembling slightly. Small victories first. The big one was still waiting. I found Victoria near the silent auction table, pretending to admire a painting. Lovely piece, she said when she noticed me. Abstract, I replied. Everyone sees what they want. Her lips curved. I always saw more in you than you realized. Did you? I asked quietly. Because the last thing you told Ethan about me was that I'd tether him down. She blinked. You overheard that I heard every word. A flicker of something regret maybe crossed her face before the practiced elegance returned. I only wanted the best for you. No, you wanted control, I said. And when you couldn't shape me into another version of you, you handed him to Chloe. Emily, I stepped closer. You taught me something, though. You taught me how to play your game better than you. Her expression hardened. What do you mean by that, you'll see? I smiled, walked away, and left her standing in the reflection of her own confusion. An hour later, the lights dimmed for the feature presentation, a showcase video highlighting Greenwave's journey. I'd personally edited it. Lucas trusted my creative instincts. He didn't ask for final review. The screen flickered to life. The first half played as expected footage of solar fields, app demos, smiling employees. Then, midway through, came the insert. A timeline of our founding years. Photos of me designing prototypes in the old loft. Then a brief sequence titled Origins of Vision. Clips of past interviews I'd done voiceovers about perseverance, betrayal, resilience. Lines like, "Sometimes the people who break you are the ones who build your backbone. Success is the sweetest revenge as long as you do it beautifully," the crowd murmured. The camera cut to a press photo me shaking hands with Apex executives, then zoomed on the caption, "Emily Carter Hayes, co-founder and creative director, former Carter Designs, Los Angeles." Then another image slid in an archived social media photo from years ago, my mother Chloe and Ethan at the rooftop party where it all began. Laughter frozen in time. A quote faded over it in elegant typography. "They said I was fragile. Turns out, glass can cut." Gasps rippled through the audience. Lucas glanced at me, startled but impressed, realizing this wasn't an accident. I held my champagne steady and smiled for the cameras. After the video, people flooded me with congratulations, half understanding the subtext but loving the spectacle. Victoria stood frozen, her mask slipping. Chloe looked pale. Ethan avoided my eyes entirely. Lucas pulled me aside near the balcony. "That edit," he said under his breath, "was that intentional?" "Completely," I said. "Consider it performance art." He studied me, then nodded slowly. "I should be mad. But God, that was magnificent. Do you regret marrying someone vindictive?" He smiled. "Only when she forgets how brilliant she is." Later, as the crowd thinned, Ethan finally approached. He looked older, edges dulled by guilt or mediocrity. "Emily," he began, voice low. "Can we talk?" I turned, letting the skyline frame me like a scene he couldn't belong in anymore. "About what? The past. I deleted that file years ago." "I was stupid," he said. "Your mom, she didn't force you into her bed," I interrupted. He winced. "You were always stronger than I gave you credit for." I met his eyes. "No, Ethan. I just stopped needing your approval to feel real." He nodded, defeated. "You look happy." "I am." He hesitated. "Chloe's struggling with work. If you could," I laughed, cold and clean. "Help her. After she destroyed mine, I think she'll manage." He exhaled, eyes glistening. "You really changed." "No," I said. "I just stopped shrinking." I walked away before he could respond. The sound of my heels on marble echoed like punctuation. Near midnight, I found Victoria again, standing alone on the balcony overlooking the city. She didn't turn when I approached. "You embarrassed us," she said finally. "No," I corrected. "I reminded you who I am. You think this makes you powerful. Success fades. Maybe. But self-respect doesn't." She looked at me, eyes sharper now. "You got lucky, Emily. That husband of yours, Lucas, isn't luck," I cut in. "He's proof that someone can see me and still stay." For once, she had no retort. The silence between us stretched heavy with years of unspoken apologies neither of us would say. I took a step closer. "You wanted me tougher, remember? Congratulations. You got your wish." Then I left her there, a queen, dethroned by her own lesson. Lucas and I slipped out through the side exit past midnight. The rain had started soft and cleansing. He opened an umbrella. I didn't take it. I wanted to feel the water on my skin. "You did it," he said quietly. "You faced them." "I didn't just face them," I said. "I rewrote the ending." He reached for my hand. And now I stopped looking back. We walked toward the car, city lights blurring into silver streaks. Behind us, the museum glowed with our logo, two names side by side. In front of us, the road disappeared into mist. For the first time in years, the future didn't scare me. It called to me. Epilogue. A new dawn. 6 months later, Greenwave launched globally. The app surpassed projections. Investors hailed us as pioneers of the conscious tech revolution. Reporters loved the narrative, the artist who rose from heartbreak to innovation. They never knew how literal that was. One morning, a press request landed in my inbox from Harper Women in Business. They wanted to feature me under the headline, "The Woman Who Turned Betrayal into Brilliance." I accepted. When the article went live, it ended with my favorite quote, the one that had played at the gala. They said I was fragile. Turns out glass can cut. The line went viral. People printed it on posters, mugs, TikTok edits. I didn't correct them when they attributed it to an anonymous CEO. Some stories are sharper when the blade stays unseen. Sometimes late at night, I think about that rooftop in Los Angeles, about the girl hiding behind the palm tree, clutching a champagne flute like it could hold her together. I wish I could tell her, you'll lose them all. You'll lose yourself too. But you'll rebuild from the wreckage harder, brighter, and yes, a little dangerous. Because success isn't the opposite of pain. It's the shape you give it.